made you come up with it? You've done like a lot of these. What do you call this? Kinetic? Is this?
Yeah, I just call it a kinetic installation. But basically, I like them because they're challenging to kind of think about mechanics. I can think about space pretty easily, but thinking about movement and things and how you want things to move is difficult, and then especially sustaining things moving. You know, as you can tell, it's like this. At one point, this worked really well. Now it's barely holding on. Kinetic, like making things big. Kinetics are kind of an easy thing. I mean, once you get things moving, it's alluring, and people come in and they're like, "Oh, it's so whimsical, it's so fun," and that's cool. I'm totally down with that mentality. For me, it's a mental game, though. It really pushes the way I conceive of things by trying to have mechanics in them. You know, you just conceive of some kind of motion with some creature or whatever, a fan, anything, and so how do you actually create this motion? If you want something to go up and down from something that's spinning, you know, what's the mechanism to make that happen?
How do you, what about your materials? Do you just like have a lot of stuff like laying around?
No, we usually make everything. But this one here, we, you know, Brian had called me, my friend Brian Dinkins, who I collaborated with. We've been talking for, you know, a couple months about it. And he called me recently, maybe in the last 2 months, and said, "Oh, you know, I've had all these animals that are kind of doing this superhero stuff." And so that's what kind of built the aesthetic of like what we've got in here. The framework, though, I did as a design really to echo the idea of the cross or the cruciform. So I kind of created that concept. But a lot of the work here is actually Brian's. He created the main mechanism, which is switching directions. You know, it's going from horizontal or from vertical to horizontal. He created like the polar bear, the panda bear, the octopus. This car that goes around. I don't know if you ever saw this when we really liked having the person doing donuts at the bottom. All the animals are all kind of rising up. Not sure why this isn't going right now, but so like when we're talking about pieces in the future, we're actually thinking no animals that are like no plastic animals, none of that kind of stuff. A couple ideas that we have. One idea that I want to do is just purely abstract. You know, really just a bunch of wheels spinning that are kind of in the pictorial aspect of the cruciforms, and really just creating a visual mechanism that's really of interest. He's also talking about doing an idea where maybe we create just a large bird, you know, that flies. Just a single
bird,
a single item, you know, like a bird or something that just flaps its wings.
How long did it take you guys to assemble this?
This was done, he got in Tuesday night and we finished Friday. So, you know, he had, like, some of these pieces were built beforehand, but for the most part we didn't have any of the mechanism figured out or how things were going to come together. So it all happens pretty quick, honestly, just a couple of days.
Wow, this is really amazing.
You know, if we had, both of us were saying if we had a week to actually build this out, we would have been a lot happier with it. It would have run a little bit better. But, you know, we're throwing it up in a few days and we just have the ideas. It's pretty good.
What are the things like that you feel like in collaborating with someone else, like, you know, what's the difference for you, like personally, like how do you feel like your whole process like shifts from like just doing things on your own?
It's very different, honestly, and this kind of hit me at an odd time for it. Brian and I used to collaborate with Tim Goodwillie, who I started Material with. So we all used to be a group back in Kansas City, and that was great. I mean, it was really a way, we all kind of had the same vision of what we wanted to accomplish, but it was just like splitting labor. So, you know, and then also having like, I think we used to just say it's like having 6 hands, you know, so suddenly, you know, we could just produce so much. So that was wonderful back then. You know, the last couple times I've collaborated with Brian, it's been a little hard because he's in Santa Rosa, so we're communicating via email and phone. You know, before this show, with a couple weeks to spare, we just kept sending each other videos of like things we're making, different images, and it works okay. When we're physically in the space together working, it's great, and that's why it would be nice if we actually had a week to do that. Other aspects, though, like for instance, you know, I try really hard with craftsmanship to make things work because I know inevitably they're going to not work. Brian a little less so. So, you know, I've had to repair a lot of the work in here just because it's, you know, it's kind of pieced together to work for a minute or two, but not for good.
Yeah.
So it's hard. So yeah, I would say aspects of craftsmanship are probably the hardest part of collaborating. The best part of collaborating is sharing ideas. But I mean, it's really no different than making music, I don't think, in some ways. You know, like, especially improv stuff. Like when we used to do the DXPXC, you know, that we're just improving and kind of feeling it out as we go. And that's how Brian and I tend to collaborate as well. It's just, you know, we may have a little bit of a vision together of what we want to do, but for the most part, we just start working and kind of figure it out in an improv style and hope it works. Yeah, there's really no set parameters so much. And I don't think either of us feels like either of us works for the other.
Yeah.
You know, which tends to happen in a lot of collaborations too.
Yeah, that's a good quality to kind of actually have.
You know, it helps that we've been good friends for, you know, over 20 years now, so that helps a lot.